Oh, I gotta take you on a trip with this one. I need another sip to get that down. Let's talk about the evolution of a cider into a wine. So what did this start out as, Derica?
This is actually a viewer suggestion idea. I was going through all the comments of multiple years of people saying, hey, why don't you make this? And so one of them was a pomegranate cider. So my concept was pomegranate juice, apple juice, boom, make a cider.
And then we were in the store the other day buying said pomegranate juice, and I went, wait a minute. What do we need apple for? All it's going to do is dilute the pomegranate flavor. But that makes it not a cider. Well, is it still a cider? Is it a wine? Nobody really has the answer except, the people that make laws and stuff. And, well, I don't really care what they have to say about this. We only put names and labels on our brews so that we can describe what they are to you, okay? This is going to be a wine, just so you're aware. And my differentiation, this is our interpretation of the rules, if you will, is if it's below like 8 or 9%, it's a cider. I don't really care what it's made of. It's a cider or a beer, depending if it's a beer, an actual beer. And if it's above that, it's a wine, which in my definition, I've always said, mead is still a wine. Unless it's below 9%, then technically it's a cider. No, see, that doesn't work. It doesn't hold up.
It's a hydromel.
It's a hydromel. See, none of these names work, okay? So that's not why this is a wine. We decided to just make it a wine after all. Sorry for all the confusion. And, things get weird around here, okay?
They do. They get so weird that we're like, hey, so what tastes good with pomegranate juice? And
so
then we
asked
Alexa. I was going to say the name. If your home computer knowledge database is now saying things to you, it's his fault, not my fault.
I asked the Amazon computer program artificial intelligence thingy. And she said dark chocolate. So I was like, we could do that. So we're making a dark chocolate pomegranate wine. And in this episode, you're going to see us make a pomegranate wine. The dark chocolate part comes later. Adjustments come later. But the first thing I'm going to have to do is check out our juice. Now this is R.W. Knudsen juice. Not cheap stuff, but it's really, really good. The ingredients are filtered water sufficient to reconstitute pomegranate juice concentrate. That's it. No ascorbic acid, nothing like that. Someone actually told me recently, this was in reference to apples, that the ascorbic acid might be what's making our young apple not taste so good. Because the couple times that we used the Costco one, the Kirkland brand, that has none.
It tastes good.
They were good young, so there might be something to that. So I like that idea. But what I do want to do is take a reading on the juice first. That way we know, what we're dealing with here. Because if I'm going to add more sugars to this to get it up to the gravity to be a wine rather than a cider, I have to know where I'm starting at, or else I don't know how much to add. Alrighty then, so let's take a look here. That's pretty strong stuff. That is 1.070 all on its own. Wow, that's like shocking. Most juices are 1.050 to 1.055. This is 1.070 on the nose. So, we like to go to like a 1.100 original gravity for starting. That means I need about 25 points or so. I'm going to go with half a pound of sugar. Make life really, really simple. It'll be like a 1.110 or so gravity, but we are making a full gallon, so it might be just slightly diluted from that. Not really a problem. By the way, a note about sanitization. Everything that we're using has been sanitized in the red bucket of sanitization! And why do we do that?
Because of bugs.
Literal bugs and infections like bacteria, things like that. Because you want everything to be cleaned first, like you wash it, just like you would at the sink. And then we have a tub that is filled with Star San. We actually have a whole video on how to use Star San. We'll put a link to it and that kind of thing. And it's a safety precaution. Can you go 1,000 times making a brew without using it and never have a problem? Yes. The one time that you ruin it, you go, I should have just used Star San like that Brian and Derica said. So that's what we do. Anyway, what I want to do now is get out a scale and we're going to measure out that sugar. The scale I'm using is actually the 50-pound capacity one because we weren't sure if I was going to have the juice in there first or the sugar in there first. Because, you know, I change it up. I never do exactly what she thinks I'm going to do. So we are just going to put in the ½ pound of sugar, which is still shocking to me that that's all it's going to take. Let me get the sugar. Here we go. 8 ounces of sugar. Now, I would like to further confuse things by saying something. This juice being 1.070, if it was to be fermented on its own with no extra sugars,
Continue.
would be something like 10 to 11%. That's just crazy.
Now, when you get juice from the store, lots of times it'll settle out. You shook it?
Yeah. This one I didn't.
Okay.
See? Oh, no. There we go. There was some goop in the bottom. I did shake it up, though.
Okay.
To take the reading, I shook it up. That way
all right.
we were assured.
Cool.
Of getting
Awesome.
it all. Yeah, what she means is, you know, the stuff that settles on the bottom. You want that. That's good stuff. The solids and all that come out, those are really good for your fermentation. Now, being that this is a big container and I probably won't be able to shake it, I'm going to do the tricky pour. That this does, put some oxygen in it. Okay, what I mean by that is in the beginning of any fermentation, you really want to have oxygen added. You want to aerate that brew.
Hey, you didn't get it all the goop.
I did the best I could.
I know, it's the honeycomb. It caught it.
Yeah. So it's the bottle shape. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. But yeah, you want to add oxygen to the brew because the yeast do use that to build up the colony. It's a common misconception that the amount of yeast you put in is the amount of yeast you end up with. Not even remotely close. Probably 1,000 times over. They reproduce, die off, reproduce, die off. Not the same colony at all within just hours, let alone weeks of fermentation. That's 2. It wouldn't be a City Steading Brewing episode if I didn't spill something. Cleanup time. All right, so there's our 1 gallon in there. Now, to this, I'm also going to add a little bit of nutrient. And I have here 2 grams of Fermento in, I don't know, ½ an ounce of water or so. And we like Fermento because it's a more organic, it's a friendlier, kinder nutrient. And I'm just going to put that right in there. And I want to mix this all through. There's some sugar in there that I want to dissolve. Not a lot, because this stuff had 1.070 original gravity, which is insane. I hope I've gotten that across to you guys, that that's a very high number for juice alone. That's crazy.
So for those of you at home who drink fruit juice as a healthy beverage, you may want to reassess that.
It's all sugar.
There's a lot of sugar in there.
Yeah. Fruit is very healthy. Fruit juice, not so much, because all the stuff that makes the fruit healthy, meaning like all the fiber and the extra nutrients, is gone when it's just juice. Your body can absorb that a lot more quickly than the whole fruit. That's my soapbox for the day. I do see the irony of we're a brewing show making alcohol. I totally get that.
Right. Everything in moderation.
Take your moderation in moderation.
That's right.
Her dad says that all the time.
He does.
Okay, so let's get our reading, and then I'm gonna leave the spoon in there because I have to mix it more.
Craziness.
Yeah. I do need the graduated cylinder.
Yeah, I know.
So remember, we're aiming for something like a 1.110 or so, I'm saying or so just in case I'm wrong, original gravity here, which will give us like a 13 to 14% final wine, because it's not a cider anymore. And then we get to do more stuff to it. Spoilers, I'm not telling you what we're doing. But I did mention dark chocolate. Okay, see, now that's just freaking stupid. It's 1.090, which I guess that sort of makes sense. ½ a pound of sugar, about 23 points. 1.090. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. We're going to go with that. Why? Because I don't feel like putting... Oh, actually, wait. No, it's 1.090. Okay. I don't care. It's all good. That sounded really flippant, but...
Yes, it did.
All right, 1.090. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? It's 10 points away from where I thought, but that's because I was doing the math in my head really quick on the fly, because, you know, we don't have a script, people. I didn't know what that juice had in it.
We were making cider just 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it was going to be cider before. Okay, so 1.090, perfectly acceptable. That's still going to make like a 12 to 13% alcohol. I'm totally fine with that for a wine. Clean up. Oops, I did it again. All right, so the next step is This on its own probably won't really ferment. I mean, if it does, it's kind of risky. You don't really know what it'll become. It might spoil first. Who knows? So we're going to add some yeast. We're using Red Star Premier Classique.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo.
Which is like is this the 15% one? I think this is the 15% one.
I think.
So 13 to 15%, we're in that range. It's totally fine. It should work beautifully. We've been using this yeast a lot recently. And my only complaint with it is I need a pair of scissors to open the package because you can't tear it. They're not terrible packages. Get it? They need to be terrible packages. So when you put your yeast in, when you get it all empty, you want to make sure you thwack your packet. Sounds like a joke. There's a very good reason for it.
The foil packets in particular really create a static electricity thing, and those little yeasties just want to stick in there and not come out.
There's still a couple in there.
We paid for those yeasties. We want them in our fermenter.
They might be the only 2 alive in the whole packet, and you need those. I'm joking. There's probably at least 5 alive in the packet. No, that is actually something that's very interesting, is in yeast like this, much of it is actually dead yeast. People don't realize that. And it kind of works like the yeast hulls concept or boiled yeast. It's a little bit of a nutrient for the living yeast, but really it's because of being dried and packaged, many of them die. It just so happens that it works as a symbiotic type of relationship. And you know what? I'm not even going to try to mix this. You know why? Second I put this in there, it's all going to stick to it. I'm going to get them on the sides, and it's going to be a mess, and I'm not going to be happy. So instead, I'm just going to leave it, and we're going to put the lid on. Only one thing left to do. Well, a couple things. But the first, most important thing is make a label for your fermenter. Because if you do more than one, you have no idea what's going on. And even if you only do one, are you really going to remember in 3 weeks exactly what you put in there? Because I never do.
What if it comes out to be the best thing ever? You want to make it again, right? If you take notes, you can make it again. If it comes out almost the best thing ever and you have ideas how to improve it, you can use those notes to tweak your recipe as well.
So what goes on my note?
The name of the beverage.
Let me see if I can show them. But you got to cover your face. Can you read that? I think you can read that. There we go. But I will go through it. It's the name of the beverage, the date, the original starting gravity, and then I have here 1 gallon of pomegranate juice, 1 packet of Red Star Premier Classique yeast, 1/2 pound of white sugar, and 2 grams of fermento. Now, this may sound overly simplistic, and you know what? It is. This is a very, very simple thing. Now, will this make a decent wine all on its own?
Probably.
I'm thinking most likely. But we plan on, in the words of Emerald Lagasse, kicking it up a notch.
Bam!
So we'll see it once this kicks up, or we'll see this once it's ready to be racked, or something.
Who knows? We'll be back.
All right, it's been about 2 weeks. The airlock is stable. Let's take the lid off and do our first check. Now, the first check, once I get the lid off, these have a lot of threads. There we go. Okay, the first check involves a visual inspection. It looks visually pleasing. An aroma inspection. It smells pretty good too. That smells nice. And third, a gravity reading. Now, to do that, we just take a sample, as we always do. If you've never seen any of our videos, we actually have videos on this exact process. But basically, you take a sample, you put it in a test tube, and you have a hydrometer. 1.000. That means this is dry. Now, some people will say, oh, you could just rack this right away. I'm gonna say, let's play it safe. We're gonna wait 1 more week and make sure this doesn't change. So we'll see you in a week. All right, so 9 more days, making this a grand total of 22 days. Last time we looked at it, it had a 1.000 reading. Let's see what it is now. The never-ending threads, there we go. We're hoping to be able to continue the process on this one today. And that means racking it out of the big mouth bubbler and into another container and adding the chocolate part of the pomegranate chocolate. It does have a lovely color though. And today it's 1.000, which means this is done. So what we want to do right now is just take a preliminary taste, because this is where a little bit of guesswork, a little bit of experienced palate, which I hate to say that, but we have made hundreds of brews. We have had thousands of glasses of alcoholic beverages of various kinds. And we've both been kind of into this for a while. So I would say that we have slightly experienced palates and can probably sort of predict what to expect and where it could go. Again, this is only like 22 days old.
Yeah,
So.
and even with that, I'm enjoying the aroma, and I'm a fan of aromas, so yay. Woo, it's dry.
Oh yeah, it is.
And with the astringency of the pomegranate, just kind of like,
woo! Wow, yeah, that'll make you pucker. Holy crap.
I'm awake.
So we're gonna need to back sweeten this. Fairly certain. We are gonna wait on the back sweetening. We do wanna get some extraction of the cacao going first, or dark chocolate, which for that, we actually have our cacao extract that we used in the extract video. However, we neglected to refill it, so it's a little bit low. So I'm just gonna mix the whole thing up, okay? Which makes it into a nice, murky, nasty mess. And we're gonna put the whole thing in here, and probably a little bit more of the Crio Bru that we used to make this. But let's get to racking first, and then we'll take care of that. So racking, very, very simple. It is just moving from point A to point B, essentially. And what I'm actually gonna do is just pour this sample back in here, because we don't want to waste it.
We're pouring the sample into what we're going to rack into rather than our original pitcher, because if we did that, that would disturb the lees that we're oh so carefully trying to get rid of right now.
Which brings me to, why do we rack? A lot of people ask that. Can't I just leave it and then drink it out of the fermenter? Well, in theory, yeah, you totally can. There's no real harm to doing that, except that you see there's like some gunk on the side, the croissant, there's stuff in the bottom. Racking it cleans it up, essentially. And then it lets us do other things to it. Like we are gonna add more things to it. But in general, you rack so that it can help it clear, get rid of all the lees, and you can get rid of some of the headroom and things like that. That's generally why you rack. Is it 100% necessary? No, but it's kind of cringy to me to not do it. So I prefer to do it. And, just for science, I'm gonna drink the rest of this.
There are some concepts that if you leave a fermented brew on used lees for an extended period of time, you may receive off flavors. How strong those off flavors are, how noticeable they are, is up for debate. So we're just going to
It is true. It does happen.
Safer than
It just takes a long time. A lot of people seem to think it happens in days. No, it happens in months, like several months. And that's a noticeable effect. To have it actually really alter a brew could take a long, long time. So we don't really worry about such things, and usually we get to our brews a little more quickly, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, racking, put it in halfway, get it going. It helps to have 4 hands, or at least 3. And I'm just gonna let this sit to the bottom. I do have the cap on it. This is the first racking, so it's not super critical to keep it as clean as possible, but you wanna do the best you can, because otherwise what's the point in racking, right?
We also know that we're going to be adding a bunch of crap to this, so...
I wouldn't call chocolate crap.
Okay.
But yeah.
A lot of new ingredients.
Stuff.
To this. So we're going to have to rack it probably 2 more times after this. All right, so we racked from a 1.4 to a 1 gallon vessel. So that way we limited our headspace. However, our headspace is right to here, which means we may have limited it too much.
We can fit that and a little bit more in. Now, this is our dark chocolate source. This is Crio Bru.
It's the Ecuador roast, if you are interested in getting some yourself.
It's lovely.
It is.
It smells like chocolate.
It's fantastic.
It's a dark chocolate, okay? It's pure cacao. You can use cacao nibs, but I have not experimented on this particular brew with that. We have played around with Crio Bru in a couple of brews, and it seemed to work pretty well. So I'm just gonna add some, okay? I'm not really measuring this. I'm not putting in a tremendous amount. I'm using a dry funnel because if I use a wet funnel, it'll all stick.
That appeared to be roughly a tablespoon?
No, that's like 2, maybe 3 tablespoons.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 2-3 tablespoons.
Okay, now it is.
It's easily 3 tablespoons, I would say.
Ryan is the volumizer between the two of us, so I'm going to automatically default to whatever he's going to say on this particular thing.
And then we're going to take all of this extract that we have, which is basically vodka mixed with that Crio Bru. Some of this, well, actually all of this, has been sitting for about 6 months in the alcohol. So it extracted pretty nicely.
Ideally, and what we intended to actually do in this case, was to have the appropriate amount of volume of extract extract pre-prepared, so sitting for that 6-month period of time, so that we could put just the extract in rather than all the other solids. So that way we would be flavoring this similarly to the way we back sweeten something. So we could put in just a little bit of extract, take a sample, see if it was enough or if we needed more, and then continue the process without having this. But that didn't happen. And what is the term? Something, mother of invention?
Necessity is the mother of invention.
That. So,
And I need a tool to get the rest out. I'll be right back. Okay, whenever you're gonna use a new tool, remember this: sanitize. Now, you wanna remember, dunk it for like 30 seconds or so, okay? Not just like throw it in, pull it right back out. Although that would help. You wanna actually, leave it in there for a little bit. I just wanna get all this last bits out because, that's the good stuff right there.
there you go, sir. A sanitized chopstick.
When in doubt, chopstick. They're not just for eating anymore. That is one full fermenter. Be careful to not drop your chopstick in at this point. All I need now is an airlock and a bung. I know, before someone asks me, they're going to say, how did you know how much to put in?
We didn't.
We didn't. That is the actual truth. We didn't. Because any research that I have done on this, no one really knows. And most of the answers are to taste. They don't know what our pomegranate brew was, to know how much chocolate we should add, to know how much taste of chocolate we want in our pomegranate dark chocolate brew. The same applies when you're doing it at home. This is an experiment, okay? We always try to do things to the best of our ability and make the best estimates possible. In this case, I happen to know that I used 2 tablespoons of Crio Bru in a 14 or 15 ounce mug to make a very strong chocolate brew, like a drink, like a coffee replacement. I don't want that much flavor in here. So 16 ounces is 1/8 of a gallon, somewhere in that range. So 2 tablespoons times 8 would have been 16 tablespoons. I used about 3 tablespoons. I used like 1/5 of that, which is about 20%. So yeah, this should be like 20%-ish chocolate. Then the extract added just a little bit more. There really wasn't that much. So maybe another tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of that. So I'm thinking we're gonna have a good amount of chocolate flavor. Again, estimate. That's really all we can do. And how long we leave it in there is gonna have a large factor in it too. If we leave this for months, it's gonna be very chocolatey. Leave it for a few days, very light on the chocolate. Leave it for a week, which is probably what we're gonna do, we should have the right amount of chocolate.
The Goldilocks amount of chocolate.
Exactly. Now, dark chocolate and pomegranate both have something in common. What is that?
Bittering, mouth puckering.
They don't taste good without some sweetness.
Stuff.
Let's say that. You want a little bit of sweetness in there to make them more palatable and enjoyable. I think we're going to end up back sweetening.
I think so too.
I'm fairly certain. Now the chocolate's going to give it a little bit of a unique thing, but I think it's going to have some back sweetening.
And this is all speculation at this point. So
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
What are we going to do now?
We're going to let it sit. See when it's ready. 8 days have gone by, and there's some stuff floating at the top here. There's some stuff settled at the bottom. I'd like to take a sample of this and see, is it ready for the next step?
We've had a lot of people ask us, how do you know? Well, we don't is the answer. We have to do testings via tastings in order to tell, is it right?
Yeah, a lot of brewing is tasting and testing. I mean, if you're not doing that, then, you're probably not doing it right. But once you've done a recipe a few times, or even sometimes after the first time if it works, you can pretty much just go along, okay? Now, that's not the best advice. I understand that. But people ask all the time, how do you know if it's too sweet? Well, taste it. Is it too sweet for you? Because it doesn't matter if it's too sweet for me. If it's too sweet for you, then it's a problem. If the amount of chocolate in here is right for you, it's right for you. But if it's not right for us, it's not right for us. Everything is very subjective.
If you've watched any documentaries about commercial vineyards or even distilleries with whiskey and bourbon, you will constantly see the head personnel tasting the product, sampling,
and all
checking,
of those products
comparing.
Are made, yeah, and all those products are made to their taste, which is assumed to be general and high quality. But that's why every brewery and every distillery produces a different product because it's different people doing it. So they're all going to come out a little different. I don't really get a lot of chocolate on the smell, but I do get some. Now this is still a very young product. This is literally 4 weeks old. It smells a little green. There's a little astringency to that scent.
So I did a test there because some people say you get different aromas if your mouth is closed versus if your mouth is open. And I definitely got different aromas of the two smelling techniques. With my mouth open, I got more of the pomegranate fruity notes. Yeah, that's really weird.
Really not getting any chocolate. Like, none. If I think really hard on the back note, maybe.
But I think it might be more psychological because I know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's pomegranate. So I'm like, okay, this is pomegranate and that is not pomegranate. Oh, that's chocolate.
You get almost like a little bit on the back note at the end, but it's not pronounced.
It's the back where it's more pronounced chocolate. The front, I'm getting almost a creamy sensation, but it's not really saying chocolate to me. So does that mean add more stuff or add more time?
We're going to need more time, but I think we're also going to add one more thing to this that we don't use a lot.
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Now, do you ever see those memes or those little newsflash article things where it's food for thought? Well, Brian found one recently that was talking about how we just decided that vanilla was the opposite of chocolate.
Think about that. How is vanilla really the opposite of chocolate? They have nothing to do with each other, just because one's black and one's white.
But we also have found out that if you add a little vanilla to something that you want to taste chocolatey, it tends to taste more chocolatey.
Right. So I have here some vanilla extract. Could you use a vanilla bean? Sure, it's a little bit less predictable, but it can be done. Then there comes the question of how much. And this is another one of those things where people will say, well, how do you know how much?
We don't.
Well, I like to bake, okay? And I do a lot of cooking. So I know if I was making like a whole big dessert, I might use a teaspoon or so of vanilla extract. So if I'm making a gallon of this and I know that it's got a strong flavor already, I know that I don't want to use more than a teaspoon.
Right.
So I'm going to use about probably 2/3 of a teaspoon. Well, okay, that's a whole teaspoon. It is.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, it is what it is. That little tiny bit different might not make much difference, but it also should bring out that chocolate flavor a little bit more. And what I want to do now is just get a bung in there, and I want to mix this thoroughly because a lot of the chocolate bits and stuff are floating. And I want to make sure that everything gets moistened again and starts to extract more. It was getting nice and clear too, but hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Flavor is king.
That's right. All right, so everything's mixed through. I do detect a little bit of the vanilla on the aroma, which is good. I don't want it to be too strong. I was going to say I should probably taste this, but I'm kind of afraid with all the gloopy stuff mixed in there. I'm not going to taste it. We'll let this go for probably another week or so. We'll be back to taste it then, but we do want to put this back on first. So it's been another 11 days since we added the vanilla, and well, there's still some fine particles in here and more stuff settled out to the bottom. So we're going to do another tasting, but first let's rack this. And we're going to do the racking a little bit differently today. We have a grain bag. Actually, this is for making beer. This is a pretty fine one. You can almost use this for making nut milks too. It's that kind of fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to rack directly into that bag into the pitcher. That way it catches all those little fine particles. Now, does this catch all of the lees and everything like that? No, of course not. This is really for the particulate matter that would not come out any other way, that'll just get sucked up by the siphon. So we're just going to siphon it. I am leaving the cap on because there's enough junk in there that I don't really want to have to worry about sucking it all up. So, just a little extra protection. Okay, so now that we've racked it and we have this lovely bag in here, let's just lift the bag out. It's probably not going to have a lot in it, okay? But it did pick up some of that sediment stuff that I didn't want in our brew. Just let it drip for a second or two.
As you can see, we had very little waste with this particular brew, so that's pretty exciting.
But now comes the best part. Find out how it tastes. This is the penultimate preliminary tasting. because this is where we're going to decide, does it need any more? And we're going to talk about notes and things like that, just like, you know, what we do in tastings. Oh, so that means we got to do the color thing. It's a really pretty color.
It is a pretty color. It is kind of cloudy.
Yeah.
But I'm not bothered by it.
We may wait to bottle because it's cloudy, though. Because there wasn't enough sediment. I wonder if we disturbed it.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, on the smell, it smells wonderful. It's nice and rich. It's fruity.
It's interesting. I'm almost getting a chocolate covered cherry sensation rather than chocolate pomegranate.
On the flavor, it's definitely pomegranate. Ooh, that is interesting. And I think it needs more time to sit. It does not actually need anything added to it. But what I'm getting, let me explain. I'm getting a disparity in flavors though. I get the tartness of the pomegranate, and then you get like the creamy chocolatey thing.
That is the most chocolate
Oh, yeah.
sensation
Oh, yeah.
that I've gotten from any of our brews that we've tried to make chocolatey.
But do you see what I mean? They're not melded.
No, they're not.
They're separate. And I want it to meld. So what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna rack this back to a fermenter, put it back under airlock, and let it sit for a while. Because I want it to clear. I want some more of that sediment to come out. And B, I want those flavors to meld together. It is pretty good, I have to admit. I can't imagine what else we might do to make this better. But we will do, I guess, a post-penultimate preliminary tasting when we get to that point to find out, does it need anything more? So we're just gonna, off camera, we'll rack this back into a fermenter, put it back on the shelf, let it sit for a couple more weeks, and we'll be back then.
All right, so let's address the elephant in the room. Remember when we talked about clarity and we said clarity really wasn't a priority for us unless we had a jar of mud? Well, behold, our jar of mud.
You might also notice there's no airlock on this. There's plastic wrap over the top. Why would that be? Well, let's put it this way. It was so muddy and so cloudy that I decided, let's try cold crashing. We don't do that very often. In order to cold crash in our mini fridges, I have to take the airlock out, so I just put some plastic wrap over the top. It's been sitting out for about maybe an hour or two now. It's still cold, but it was cold crashing at roughly like 38 degrees Fahrenheit for a week, and it didn't clear. Okay, at this point, you gotta do one of two things. Either just go with it, which personally, I didn't really want to show you guys this, or do something to clear it up. We did a whole video on clarifying your brews, and well, we're going to adjust some of those opinions. Some, not all. There's still a lot of things that we really don't like to use. If you use them, more power to you. I don't condemn anyone for use of any product that they want to do in their brews. We just like to keep things very simple, approachable, and easy for people to do. And in doing that, there is one particular clarifying agent that is a standout among all of those. As a matter of fact, we didn't have any in the house, so I went to Publix, but you can probably go to any grocery store and get it yourself, and that is gelatin. Really, really simple to get and really, really easy to use. Let's get this. Oh, before we do the gelatin, we're gonna rack this. Hang on.
So everything has been sanitized, and speaking of sanitization, you may have noticed this. Now this is actually a feeding tube brush. That's why it has the extra long handle, so that way you can get a longer length of tubing clean. And that was the problem that we were having with our tubing because they're longer than normal bottle brushes. So when we found this that came in 2 diameters, it was perfect for our tube cleansing needs. So no more questionable proteins. We're clean and good to go.
And if you put a blade on the end of this, it becomes a kung fu weapon.
Don't do that.
Just saying.
No.
Not really promoting that idea, it's just a thought. Anyway, so yeah, we want to rack this off. So let me take the plastic wrap off and put that to the side.
I need our stool of racking. So the reason why I got a stool is because you want your destination vessel to be lower than your source vessel.
You've seen us rack in this video already. We're just gonna rack it. Gonna leave the cap on though. There is some sediment in the bottom there. Okay, now that we've racked it, you can see still it's very, very cloudy. Now there's a very dark brew too, so it's a little hard to see, but from our perspective, we can really tell that this is cloudy. It's not clearing, okay? So gelatin, very, very simple. I am actually just using unflavored gelatin from the grocery store.
Yes, please use unflavored gelatin.
Yeah, don't use flavored stuff because that would just be weird. There is actually like, homebrew stores will carry gelatin specific for these things. My opinion is it's the same stuff. You're probably just gonna pay more for it. So this was really cheap, $2.59 for 4 packets. We need half a teaspoon of it for 1 gallon. So to me, that's pretty inexpensive, very, very inexpensive to try to do this. And let me just measure out half a teaspoon so I can see how much is left. Oh wow, half a teaspoon? Yeah, there's probably 5 doses per packet. So 20 doses for $2.59, that's like, I don't know, 12 cents a gallon to use. Super cheap, super convenient, and I'm just gonna fold this over, use my patented folding technique, put a piece of tape on it, and put it back in the packet and use it for next time. Now, the instructions that I saw said you want to put it in a 1/4 cup of water and mix it. Now, we did actually sanitize the Pyrex, we sanitized the spoon, so everything here is sanitized. I want to try to dissolve it. Well, it doesn't dissolve super well. So they say to heat the water. I'm gonna go microwave this for about 10 seconds. They say about 140 degrees is all you need. All right, 10 seconds in the microwave. You do not want this to get too hot or you're gonna make Jell-O. And while Jell-O meat might be interesting, it's not really what we're after here. I just want it to dissolve fully, that's it. So I did 10 seconds. I don't even think it got to 140 degrees. It might have hit 110 or 115.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Because we've been cold crashing this and it's still pretty cold. Is that going to cause an issue with adding the gelatin?
As I understand it, the way the gelatin works is it does sort of set up and it falls out of suspension along with all the particles. Yeah, that's
science.
We're gonna find out. I mean, this is new to us. We've never done this. I just read up a bunch on it and saw how people did it, and it's a very simple process. And it's just not something we've ever found necessary before, until now.
Now, if we had planned ahead like we intended to, and we had our homemade chocolate extract good to go, we probably wouldn't have this issue and wouldn't have to have addressed it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. But hey, things happen. Once you have that done, you pour it in. Probably not bang the glasses together. And you mix.
It's interesting, when he poured it in,
It went milky.
It went milky. It didn't coagulate like I was expecting it to. It just went milky. So in my head, that's telling me, and then when he was stirring it, oh my gosh, it smells so good. Sorry, I got derailed. The aroma on this is lovely already. So yay! But that milkiness and the swirling that was happening when he was stirring it makes me think that the reaction is occurring already, and I think it's binding with the proteins in there, and it's going to clear this out, and I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I didn't do a full scientific research on exactly what makes it work. I just know it has something to do with binding to all the stuff that's in there, and it falls out of suspension being heavier than water. It's not enough gelatin in there to actually form Jell-O here, so that should do it. We do need an airlock.
So we are good to go to let this sit. I'm putting the airlock on, we got our cap on, and Brian and I are both noticing something right away. So let's take a closer look at this, shall we? All right, do you see what we see?
It looks like it's particleizing. That's a new word. I'm making that a word. It's literally forming particles that are falling out of suspension. I'm hoping it just completely falls out of suspension and goes away, because right now it's kind of floating and it's looking a little bit strange. But they say this should take 24 to 48 hours. So we'll return in that time and let you know how it goes.
Ta-da!
All right, so it's been like 48 hours. And honestly, I think it cleared up quite a bit. It did some crazy stuff in the beginning. There was a lot of like little pieces and stuff. I shook it up again, let it all go again. And there's quite a bit of sediment at the bottom. Quite a bit fell out.
Wow.
More than was in there before. So like more than what we put in. So I'm gonna go with, that was successful, okay? I like the idea of using gelatin for this. That was a success. It's just a very, very dark, oddly colored brew.
Yeah,
so
for
there's
you,
that.
it might not look any different, but from our point of view, it looks significantly different.
Yeah, it's really hard to show that on camera, but it did actually clear up. I think it cleared up, you know. I am going to leave the cap on. We're just going to rack to a pitcher because there's enough sediment in there. I don't want to really get that into the brew. So let me just get this racked. You can see all that stuff on the bottom. This was racked before we did this. So the fact that there's that much more stuff means that's what it pulled out to make this more clear. That's the way it works.
And you saw while Brian was sloshing it around, it really didn't dislodge, so it compacted quite nicely.
Really nice. It's coming off in chunks more than anything, and I'm being rough with it now. All right, we're done with that. We ended up with what looks like 120 ounces. Let me get out my handy dandy calculator, because that is 3,500 milliliters. So 3,500 milliliters divided by 750 for our wine bottles is 4.66666 with a 7 way down the line. So like 5 bottles. We'll be using 5 bottles.
But before we bottle, there's something even more important that we have to do.
We need to taste this. Now this is the final tasting before the 1 year. It's the how good is it tasting? I don't know. We're trying to come up with a name for it.
So I don't know if you can see from there the clarity. It's just really dark. It's pretty clear, but it's just really dark.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I would say clarity-wise, it's maybe a 6 to a 7. It's not perfect, but way better.
Significantly better.
Way better. I mean, it was looking at pea soup the other day. It looked like chalky water. It was very, very, very cloudy. I can actually see my finger through that.
Color-wise, it's this really neat reddish brown.
Yep. The chocolate definitely, the Crio Bru definitely gave it a color. It's nice. It's not bad. On a smell, it smells good.
It smells
really like peanut butter and jelly.
Why did you have to say that?
Well, it does.
It smells like chocolate and fruit, like chocolate covered
I say
cherries.
Peanut butter and jelly, but it's more like I got the jelly thing and the chocolate covered cherry. That's what it is. So, peanut butter and jelly, whatever. The chocolate comes through in the nose. So does the fruit, though. Wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Ooh. Oh, I got to take you on a trip with this one. I need another sip to get that down. Okay. As it hits the tongue, there's a tartness to it immediately. Then I get hints of dark chocolate almost right away. So you have a tart, dark chocolate, and then comes the fruit sweetness. Now this is dry, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, this is totally dry, 1.000. There's no sugars left in this, supposedly. But right away then, after the dark chocolate, which stays throughout, by the way, you get the fruits coming through. That lingonberry really works like a cranberry, cherry-ish kind of thing, increasing...
What lingonberry, Brian? This is pomegranate.
All right. That pomegranate really works like a cranberry cherry kind of thing, coming through and enhancing the chocolate that much more, or the chocolate's enhancing it. Either way, they work really, really well together, giving that lovely dark chocolate cherry concept. Now it's in my head. That's what I'm tasting. And then as it goes further, it actually gets a little bit sweeter. And then on the finish, it's all dark chocolate. Really wonderful. There's a strong tartness to it, though, most definitely.
This is making me so ridiculously happy right now. I can't even express it properly to you. I have been craving all the chocolate in every configuration I can think of. And to the point that I was going to make fudge, which was probably going to end in tears, so I didn't. But this is all the things that I've been wanting for like a month now in one glass. And
this is very much Derica's wheelhouse.
Oh my gosh, I'm so ridiculously happy. You saw me just chugging it, right? While Brian was talking, I'm like, oh, and then I had to pour more. I am a happy girl now.
Yeah, this came out immensely better. There's a nice richness and creaminess to it that the vanilla added. You can tell the vanilla is there, but it didn't overpower. That's a really tricky thing with vanilla.
Is this the one that we oaked up front, or was that something else?
Oh, let's see. Nope, we did not oak this. It's not oaked at all.
Because it
That's the vanilla.
feels
You're
oaked.
getting the vanilla, vanillin thing going on, making it feel oaked. There's a strong acidic component from the pomegranate, and I think the chocolate added a lot of tannins.
Yeah.
So that could be where you're thinking it's oaked.
Right.
Because we got strong tannins, strong acid, good sweetness coming through on both of those, believe it or not.
It's very rare that we've made something that was that tart and acidic on the tongue and up front that still had that really lovely creamy sensation in the mouth.
This literally is a journey. Many beverages, as you drink them, they taste more or less the same. Like you get a little bit of difference at the beginning and the end. This is a completely different experience from the first instance in your mouth to when you go to swallow. Completely different taste. It goes from a tart sweet thing to a rich chocolate thing with a little bit of fruit hints. Really incredible. It's such a literally like it starts and switches just right in the middle. It's really amazing. That's unusual. Very complex. Very complex.
And even though it's such a drastic kapow kapow, it doesn't feel discordant at all.
No, it did actually taste discordant when we first tasted this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Now it's
I think it just needed a little more time to mellow.
Lovely.
I think in a year, this is going to be
ridiculously
insanely good.
Brian is going to have to secretly stash away the 1 year bottle because I know where all the 1 year bottles are. They're right there. This one is going to have to go someplace that I don't know. So I don't get to it before the 1 year passes because I without words.
We're not going to do it now, but I think one thing that would make this even better if it was a little sweeter.
I'm not missing the sweetness.
That's why I'm not
sweetness
doing it because you're
from it.
happy with it. I just think, for me personally, a little bit of sweetness on this would have worked. But I'm the one with the sweet tooth of the two of us. Do you have a score?
Yes, I do. If I was a puppy dog, my tail would just be wagging.
Okay, our scoring system is 1 through 10. 1 being total crap, probably gonna dump it out. 10 being it's amazing. I would choose this over everything except for the couple of 11s that we've made. Everything around a 5 and up, it's pretty much, yeah, I'd drink that. It's pretty good. So with that in mind, you ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 8.
11.
Really? 11? You're putting this that high?
To drink it all right now.
That's amazing. We are 3 apart. Okay, I'm the low man, so let me start. The reason I'm an 8 and not higher is because this isn't really my thing. It's okay. I like it, but I don't love it. I think we've made better, personally. The astringency is a little much. I'd like it to be a little bit sweeter. The chocolate comes through beautiful. That saved this. The chocolate and the vanilla really made this work much better for me. If it was sweeter, I might be able to go a little higher because that extra tartness would have come down. It would have balanced it a little bit more. To me, it feels slightly out of balance. But that said, it's still really, really good. At an 8, that's really, really good.
My mental favorites of what you've brewed so far have been the Franklin, the Mojito Kill You, because who doesn't like mojitos? Well, certainly not me. I'm kind of obsessed with them. And then Klingon Blood Wine. And Klingon Blood Wine is so complex and has all these things going for it. And it's just like
These are like cousins.
Wonderful thing. But it doesn't have chocolate.
Yeah.
This has chocolate.
It had coffee, not chocolate.
I want more of this. So that's why it got 11.
Where see, like I like
even
the spiced
hesitating.
methylene was my 11.
Sure.
You gave that an 11 as well. We both gave that.
It was very lovely. But this is chocolate.
Yeah. This like I say, this is more her thing than mine. Not that there's anything wrong with it at all, really, other than I'd like it to be a little sweeter. That's really the only thing I'm saying. And we're not changing it because she likes it that much. If it's an 11, there's no reason for me to change it. Because I know one thing too. Even if we sweeten this, it still wouldn't be an 11 for me. It might not be an 11 for her anymore, which means I'm likely to drink something else anyway. Even if we change this, she would choose this, so we leave it as an 11. That is part of homebrewing. Making it your way. I mean, this is your wine at the end of the day. If you don't want to share it, don't share it.
I don't want to share it.
If you want to give it away, give it away. If you want to make it sweeter, make it sweeter. If you want to make it drier, make it drier. If you want to combine it with another alcohol, go for it. If you want to use it as a mixer in a cocktail, go for it. That's the whole point in homebrewing. It's your brew. Make it your way.
Yes, notice, I'm not even looking at the shelf of mystery
Yeah,
to see what I'm
she's
going to
not-
pair. No, I just want to drink this.
I've been kind of waiting for her
This
to
picture-
add something.
I'm just going to chug this pitcher and game over, right? But
All
no,
right.
we need to bottle before
Yeah.
I drink it all. So
Here, let me
take my glass away, please.
Okay, so after tasting, we now have 112 ounces left, which I'm thinking is probably 4 bottles now. 4.4 bottles.
All right.
So we still need 5 bottles.
We need 4 bottles.
Yeah, and she's going to drink half a liter. Oh, half a bottle? Okay, 4.4 bottles is what we're going for. I know I can usually fit just a little bit more into these, so we might only need 4 bottles, but we have 5 just in case. Bottling, though, very, very simple. Use an auto siphon. You might be tempted to just pour it from the pitcher. Do not be tempted. What you want to do is use an auto siphon with the cap off and a bottling wand.
So the reason why we take the cap off is because we just racked this, so we know there's no sediment in the bottom there, so we don't have to worry about keeping the cap on.
Bottling wand with a springy thingy. It's just a piece of plastic tubing that has a valve on the end. And what happens is when it's on your tubing, if you put it into the bottle like so and push down, liquid can flow. When you lift up, liquid stops. So that way you can see, you fill it, fill it, fill it. When it gets to about here, you pull that out really quick and boom, you have a full bottle and no leaky mess. So we're going to proceed to fill bottles. It's much like siphoning for racking, except you're putting it into bottles. That's all.
All this stuff, of course, has been sanitized as usual.
The one-hand method.
So, we have 4 bottles and 8 ounces of happy Derek of fun time.
Now, one thing we might not have even talked about is the ABV of this wine. So let me grab the calculator the teacher said I would never have handy, and we'll do some calculations, shall we? The way to do that is, the formula will be right here. You take your original gravity minus your final gravity and multiply that result by 135. Very, very simple. So we have 1.090 minus 1.000, because that's what it ended at. We get 0.09, multiply that by 135, we get 12.15. To me, that's 12.1% ABV. Pretty respectable for a wine. It's in the normal range. They're usually anywhere from 9 to 13 or 14%. So, what are we going to do with these bottles now? And don't say drink them.
We're gonna hide them from me.
Oh, jeez. One of these will go away for a year. One will probably go away for 2 years. I think 2 years on this one is going to be absolutely astounding. She gets to drink 8 ounces, and then there's 2 other bottles for her to drink along the way. And we'll be making very simple labels with just basically that information on them. Nothing else like that. So overall, what's your take on this?
Make this wine and drink it.
As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.